you're not going to amount to anything, you're not good enough, I don't see greatness in you. And it's really that relationship with God that allows that greatness to come out. It's embedded in you. You just got to figure out how to let it out.
Welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, where business success meets personal purpose. Here we empower entrepreneurs to strike that perfect balance between massive growth and unwavering values. Dive deep into strategies, inspirations, and stories that ensure you set your foundation in faith and don't compromise your family on your ascent to the top. Welcome back to the Maverick Entrepreneur. We are excited today to have our guest, Anthony Trimino, who is here to talk about his huge event that he has coming up right here in the state of California that you want to lean in and listen to. He is doing things that are going to change how the industry of business, personal development come together with purpose, vision, and passion. And so stay tuned. There are some nuggets dropped to open your minds, to open your ears to what is possible in your world. So stay tuned and enjoy the episode. All right, here we are.
Yeah.
Beautiful day in San Diego.
Yep.
And for those of you that don't know, this is the one and only Anthony Trimino. And our journey started a few years ago when you were running for governor. And what a ride that was. But, you know, here we are today. And I know that there's some things coming up on the radar that are pretty important to you that I actually, you know, the more I hear you talk about it, the more I get excited about it. And one thing I love about this guy is, man, when you get your mind made up on something, you're like a dog on a bone. And it's rare to find people like that get passionate, still have wisdom, but then they're high executors. And that's what I love about you, is not that you have a vision for something, which you do. A lot of people have vision for something, but it's still sitting on the shelf getting dusty. I've watched you not only just talk about it, you be about it. When it was for governor, you just didn't talk about the problems. You're like, that's it. And then you enrolled your whole family, went on a mission, and I'm sure learned a lot. But I would love to hear, and I want to get to the why you're so passionate about certain things, but I want to hear about this passion project that is now you're going, that's it. We're going to take this to the world. I want as many, and I'm going to say you attract high achievers. So it's not like this is, you know, I mean, I know we want to say it's for everybody, but this, you have in your mind an avatar of people that you know you have to have there, otherwise their life won't be better. What is this event, your passion project? Tell us about it.
Well, it's called Discovering Polaris. We talked about it, right? And Polaris is the North Star. And the inception of this, really the inception of everything I do, is that I'm stirred and bothered by something, right? So running for governor, it was about injustice. It was about, there was something wrong. I was stirred and felt like I needed to do something about it. So that whole run was about me, not just talking about creating solutions, but thrusting myself into a battle to say, well, if no one's going to fix it, I'll fix it, right? Well, this is no different. All the things that I pursue in my life usually start with the stirring. They usually bother me. It's usually something that I'm frustrated with, or I know can be better. So this particular project, Discovering Polaris, for all intents and purposes, we can call it a business conference, but it's unlike any business conference I've seen, heard of, attended. It's something radically different. But the way it started was, you know, I have 5 boys, and these are entrepreneurial-minded young guys who consume content at mass with regards to self-development and achievement and growth. And so you can imagine, as a father, I'm sitting with my boys a lot, and I'm listening to the content that they're consuming, right? YouTube, social media, Instagram, etc. And as I started to really take in the voices that they were listening to, the Wes Watsons, the Gary V's, the Grant Cardones, you know, I can name probably about 20.
Without using F words?
I can name about 20 of these guys who are just out there gaining mass followings, right? Preaching from their pulpit on success and life and what it means to be wealthy and what it means to be successful. And if you peel back the layer, you realize these are broken guys. These are counterfeits. These guys are preaching about prosperity. they're preaching about wealth, and yet eternally they're bankrupt. And I'm sitting here and I'm raising boys into men, and I'm like, you know what? These guys are going to learn how to be worldly successful and eternally bankrupt, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
And if my boys represent what's happening in the world, then there are a lot of people, impressionable young adults, who are listening to these guys, and they think they're having a skewed perception of what it really means to be free, what it means to be successful. And so, I'm sitting here, I'm like,
What it means to honor their wife. I mean, half these guys got their wives half
that's what I'm
naked.
saying. They're absolutely broken. It's not, well, first of all, some of them are on multiple marriages. Some of them are not married. Some of them are convicted felons. Some of them, like, you name it. I mean, they're counterfeit. They're going to teach you potentially how to be successful here, but at what cost?
Yeah.
At what cost? Steve Jobs died truly understanding that it doesn't benefit a man to gain the world, right? And lose his soul. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, this is the problem and I need to fix it. First thing, I need to address it with my boys and be like, those aren't the voices you should be listening to. I was like, look around you. We've created success. We've created wealth. We've created pathways for other people to be successful and wealthy. And we didn't bankrupt our eternal life to do it. So I started to think about this concept. What is it? Why is it that there are certain people that no matter what's happening in the world, no matter what president is in office, no matter what's happening in the economy, why is it that certain people can continue an upward trajectory in their life, no matter what's happening in the market, right? Because they're likely fixed on a North Star, something that despite what's happening around them, they can continue to drive themselves, propel themselves forward. And so I started to think about this concept, like I need to put something out there for these young guys to really latch on to, where they can find success, they can find meaning, they can find purpose without bankrupting their eternal well-being, right? So I just started to toy with the idea and this concept around developing a business conference that would teach people how to be successful here without losing your soul, without compromising your relationships. And I really wasn't going to do much with it till I spoke it out and someone heard and they're like, this is a concept that people need. And so we started to develop this idea. And what I wanted to do with Discovering Polaris is I wanted to create an event that was so immersive and so different that it was unlike anything anybody had ever seen. So I put together a really interesting team of entrepreneurs, people that were successful in the marketplace, speakers, and I hired a cirque director. And I said, let's do something radically different.
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on.
So the concept behind Discovering Polaris is, if you've been to a business conference, most business conferences, you go and you hear keynote after keynote after keynote, right? Most of the time, their stories are completely unrelated to each other. So you can go and you can find out how, Grant Cardone blew up in real estate, or how Damon John started his fashion company. But at the end of the day, you'll hear 10 different speakers and you won't necessarily know how that applies to your life. You'll say,
it's true.
Hey, that was fascinating. I love what he did. That's cool. Can't relate to it. I love what he or she did. That's cool. Can't relate to it. And there's no overarching message or common thread between any of them. So you go, potentially you get inspired by their stories, but you don't necessarily walk away with any practical tools on how you can apply it to your life, right?
So this is going to be more than a jacuzzi experience. You know what that is?
No.
So I'm an MC at the largest chiropractic, not every year. Matter of fact, I'm going this year, and we have 40 speakers. I'm the MC. I'm pretty much the thread. And here's what I say all the time. It drives me crazy. A jacuzzi experience is when you're sitting in the jacuzzi, you're loving your life, you're feeling good. As soon as you're out, you dry off. Yeah. I was like, oh, back to the difference between a jacuzzi experience, which is like what you were just saying typical business seminars are. They're hyped up, but then when they go home, there's no change because they don't know how to apply anything, versus an experience that has transformation attached to it. So what I'm hearing is this isn't just a business thing that's a jacuzzi experience. you're putting something together that's going to create transformation. So how do you do it?
There's 1,000 business conferences that exist today, and again, any number of them, you can show up and you'll hear 10 different speakers, and if you're a good note taker, you'll come back with one or two tidbits that you maybe can apply, but no overarching message. So what we wanted to do is break down a concept. The concept behind Discovering Polaris is really finding your North Star, right? That thing that you can fix your eyes on, so that no matter what happens around you, you can still navigate toward all your goals, right? So the overarching message is discovering Polaris, your North Star. But we broke the concept down into 4 sessions, right? Discovering how to discover your North Star, how to reflect your North Star, how to apply your North Star, and how to avoid deceptive North Stars, right? So what we did was we broke it up into four sessions, and each pillar will teach, right? We'll have a keynote come in and really just open you up to the idea and the premise behind the session. And then we do an hour and a half long immersive exercise where we go deep. And then we pepper in some theatrical elements. So I'm going to do a little bit, I'm going to expose a little more about the event than I have thus far. Because we're close, right? So as I was thinking about just human psychology and how to take a message and really embed it deep into someone, right? Most of the time, you have to break through the surface and prepare the soil if you're going to plant a seed, right? And so if you just show up to a business conference and you hear a bunch of people speak, they've not done enough to really prepare the soil to plant that seed deep enough that it'll actually produce a harvest. So you got to kind of appeal to multiple senses. So I had this idea, and initially I called it, TED Talks, right?
Oh yeah.
So initially I had this idea and I call it Dead Talks.
Dead Talks.
And what it is I thought, you know what, we're gonna have a bunch of people on stage that are doing things now that are profound. But you know how many people have passed away that have left a legacy who have followed these same core principles? And I want to prove that these core principles that exist today, they existed 100 years ago, 200 years ago. They're the same principles. They don't change. You just apply them differently. So I had this idea around these Dead Talks where I would bring back to life different people from the past that have demonstrated these core elements and found success. And then what we'll do is we'll use those theatrical elements to break the ground, to open it up so that the people are more prepared to accept the seed we're going to plant. So I'll give you a little more. If you can imagine, we have Harriet Tubman is one of the ones that we're going to introduce back. Michelangelo. I'm going to explain Michelangelo because it's a beautiful story. If you think about discovering Polaris in my life, right? So in my life, what is Polaris? Polaris is God, right? Discovering Polaris in my life, that North Star, that thing I have my eyes fixed on, that thing that doesn't move, that doesn't change, that's constant, is my relationship with God. It's how I've pulled myself and navigated uncertain times. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to see how we can take historical figures from the past and see how they followed their North Star, and how that North Star and the character traits of North Star emulate the character traits of God, right? So the Michelangelo story is this. True story. Michelangelo carved David out of a piece of marble. That piece of marble, nobody wanted that marble. For 3 years it sat in the quarry and people passed it by. It had a vein in it. They didn't think it was worth anything. They thought it was useless. They thought it was ugly. They thought it could never become anything. Michelangelo saw greatness in it, so he gets it. And as we know, he sculpted David out of it. Well, later on, they asked him, they said, everybody passed up on this ugly piece of marble. Nobody wanted this marble. Like, how did you create such a beautiful work of art out of it? He's like, don't give me the credit. And he's like, I didn't sculpt David. He said, David was always in the marble. All I did was let him out.
Come on.
Now, that is a beautiful story also of how God views us, right?
Yep.
So we all have greatness in us. And oftentimes the world will look at people and say, you're not going to amount to anything. You're not good enough. I don't see greatness in you. And it's really that relationship with God that allows that greatness to come out. It's embedded in you. You just got to figure out how to let it out. So imagine we bring Michelangelo out on stage, and he does a 10-minute monologue with this piece of marble on the stage, and he's having this intimate dialogue with this marble about how he sees beauty and greatness, and how, you know, others have passed it by. And so by introducing these theatrical elements, what we're going to do is we're going to shock the audience, right? They're not going to expect this. They're going to be able to kind of see the concept that we're trying to introduce
Yep.
in a whole different way, in a very creative way that should break through the foundation, prepare them so that now somebody comes out and delivers a message on greatness, on what's in you, how to pull it out. And then we do an hour and a half immersive experience on now that you know greatness is in you.
Yep.
And you've heard someone come out and tell you how they've applied that principle to succeed in life, and they've given you a real world example. How do you apply it to yourself? I'm going to spend an hour and a half going deep into the practical tools that you can use to actually pull the greatness out of you that already exists. And we do that 4 times. So we have 4 different TED Talks, 4 different sessions, 4 keynotes, and 4 immersive experiences. And even though I've divulged a lot, the way we execute this,
You're giving up some good.
well, I'm giving up way too much. But by the time this airs, you should have already gotten your ticket. So
That's right.
So, but the way we're going to execute this is going to be, and this is all part of, you know, I was inspired by you. You told the story of the brownie, and I've not let that go. I tell that brownie story probably twice a week.
What?
Since I heard it. And your story actually helped to inspire this, because while I was thinking of the concept of Discovering Polaris and thinking about, like, how do I even introduce this concept, and why is it really something that I need to take on, right? I started to think about that story, and you know, we talk, and you spoke about how there are all these things that exist in the world that look good, smell good, they potentially look like they're going to taste good, and we consume them at mass.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that's what my boys were doing. They were
Yeah.
consuming these secular brownies at mass, and what they were feeding themselves was poison. I said, what if we can flip the script and radically change the way we approach society? And what if we could create those brownies that look good, smell good, seemingly taste good to the general public, but instead of poison, we're putting truth and light, and so that this concept was born out of the frustration that I had with regard to the voices that exist in society today, coupled with your concept of the brownie, and I was like, that's what this needs to be. So the whole show in and of itself is that brownie, and interwoven into everything is truth, light, and a beautiful message about how you can achieve greatness without bankrupting your eternal soul.
Well, you might as well give people your rendition of the brownie story.
Oh yeah,
The front.
100. And if I butcher it, I apologize.
No, you're not butchering.
This is the way I remember hearing it, and this is the way I tell it. But and it was your story, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My dad taught me.
All right. So and again, if I butcher it,
No, you're not.
But you know what?
butchering
If you haven't heard it, it doesn't matter. You won't have anything to compare it to
it.
anyway.
No context.
So the way I remember it and the way I tell it is that when Matt was younger, he wanted to see a movie. I think it was Indiana Jones, and his father said no. He didn't quite understand why his father said no, and probably threw a little tantrum, didn't talk to his dad. His dad then comes to him and says, hey, I'll make a deal with you. Your mom made 12 brownies. They're sitting on the table. If you eat all 12 brownies, I'll let you go see the movie. But hold on, before you eat the brownies, I want to let you know that your mom put a little bit of dog poop in each of those brownies. But please, by all means, if you eat all 12 brownies, you can go see the show. Obviously, the brownies were not eaten. And the way I tell the story, I'm like, so Matt doesn't eat the brownies, goes up to his dad and says, why the heck were you going to let me eat those brownies? His dad says, now you're asking the right questions. The world creates these things that look good, smell good. They look like they even taste good. You consume them at mass, and what you don't realize is that you're digesting and consuming poison.
Yep.
And so that, obviously the movie had sex and violence, and he didn't want you to go under the guise that it's this adventure movie, this brownie that looked good, right? But that you were going to be consuming a poison, especially at a young
At
age.
my age, yep.
And so that story, that's where you stopped. And I started to think, well, how is it then that we can equip ourselves to start making different type of brownies?
Yep.
How do we as business people in the marketplace, people, on Seven Mountains, how do we start to create brownies that are consumed at mass, that the general public, society, they look at it and they're like, hey, this looks good, it sounds good, it's probably entertaining, I'll check it out. But in reality, what we're infusing is truth, light, honesty, goodness. That's why I started on Day One Studios, production studio. That's why I started a nonprofit faith arm of the agency. That's why I'm doing Discovering Polaris. I'm super focused right now on being a baker. I'm trying to create as many brownies as I can, donuts, brownies, cookies, shakes. I don't care what it is, and
Might put an order
infusing in there truth and light, and seeing if we can do. Look at the church today has a role in society, but real transformation is going to happen outside the church. And it's going to take us in the marketplace and on these mountains of influence to go out there like Trojan horses and penetrate culture, switch culture, flip culture, so we can shift society and then ultimately everything else, politics included.
So my question is, and I don't even know, we haven't gone down there. What is the follow? So is this a one-off, or is this like building momentum for something bigger? And let's just say, I bring my team, they have this revelation, and then they realize they're following people that have a bunch of poop in their brownies. What's next? Like, are you building out influencers that want to influence with the positive?
Yeah,
like,
when I first had this idea, I first wanted to be a stronger voice to my boys than what they were seeing and hearing in society. So that was first. Then when I realized, well, they're not the only ones, we got to reach out to more, that's when the idea started to flourish. Initially, my concept was to create this one event and to just do something radically different. And I didn't think of the what's next for the first time. I wasn't thinking about what's next. But the moment I started to introduce this concept to everybody, they're like, what are you going to do with them? Once they understand, once they're locked onto the idea, once they get it, and they're like, I need to shift my perspective. This is kind of the direction I need to go in every area of life, personal development, family, and business. What do you do next? And so once we started to produce the show, we've now spent the last 3 months trying to figure out, okay, what is the what's next? So two things. Number one, we're going to take the show on the road, because we think that every market, there's a market for people that are thirsty for a better approach to achieving success without bankrupting your soul, right? But more than that, we want to help people along the journey. So at the event, we're starting to develop a program where we'll be able to offer a program where beyond the event, we'll be able to provide consulting, one-on-one coaching to help you maintain that trajectory. Because at the end of the day, once we introduce this concept to you, you're going to understand the significance and the importance of identifying your North Star, reflecting it in all areas of life, applying it to all areas of your life, and then making sure you don't fall victim to false North Stars, distractions, et cetera, counterfeits, right? But once you understand that, it's inevitable that, a month from now, 2 months from now, you're going to get hit with something you didn't expect. There's going to be a change in the market. There'll be a change in the presidency. There'll be a change in something will happen. Yeah. It will shake you and rock you. And we want to be able to equip you long-term to be able to stay on track. Because look, when you talk about trajectory, if you're even off by 1 degree, it may not seem like a big deal on day one. But the longer you're off, the more you're off course. So we want to help people and equip people with tools and resources they need to continue on this journey long term.
That's funny. My 3 words I've always held on to: truth, tools, results. Can I speak the truth, give people the tools, and get the results we're looking for? I just had this thought, and you know how Public Square just said, that's it, screw it. We're going to try to find people that aren't going to sell out America,
Yeah.
and they put all the businesses behind it. And now look at them, they're endorsed by everybody, and they're just moving like crazy, all from a concept where I sat down with the CEO at the time, and he pitched me this idea, went to my church, and now I look at him going, holy cow, that's a dreamer that took it, held on to it, and it exploded. I see the same thing here, and I just had this thought. There's so many, great influencers out there, but they're just all spot checked.
Yeah.
How do you build a platform, and you got the means and the ways to do it, that they can like if I knew my kid, they can go to, Discovering Polaris, and they can see all the influencers for good. It's like almost like a vetting. I know, hey, I'm gonna let you follow these people because they're inspirational. It's almost like the next level of building something where you vetted them, that you would want your boys to look up to.
The important thing, everybody working on the show, everybody speaking, has been vetted to the point of understanding, like, are these the real deal people? These are real deal people, right?
Real deal.
A lot of people don't know about me. Like, we talked about I was running for office, but I built a 9-figure business. I run multiple businesses right now that are highly successful. I've taken 2 companies public. Over 23 years, I've worked with I've worked with startups to Fortune 500 companies. Like, we get hired every day to build businesses, expand businesses. Like, I've done some things I don't talk about, but like when big companies, they want to know how to expand, how to stay relevant, how to enter new markets. Like, they come to us, and we put together radical strategies for how to become relevant, how to expand, how to go global, we take local companies, regional, national, globally. I've worked in 50 different industries across these 23 years. All of these insights, all of these strategies, all of these learnings that I have and that my team has built over 2 decades, like, I want to equip the right people with the right tools to go and start conquering, and to build market leaders with people who share my values, right? Yeah. And so I'm going to bring to the table at this event things I've never spoken about, things I've never talked about, tools, tips, tricks, insights that I've built over 24 years running a global agency. I'm gonna crack open books I haven't cracked open. I'm gonna share insights I've never shared, because I want people to fast track. Like, I want people to level up in every way. And the people that I'm bringing to the table,
canceling my Italy trip.
And the people I'm bringing to my table, that's the thing. I needed to know that they understood the concept, that they aligned with values, that they were people that, if I sent, like you said, so if I send my boys, and let's say I wasn't speaking, I sent my boys there, are they going to learn things that will actually help them succeed, right? Are they actually going to leave there with tools, with practical tools to apply in their life on day one to help them on their entrepreneurial journey, number one. And number two, is that going to be encapsulated with truth and not spoken from a stage full of counterfeits, people that are broken, people that should not be defining what we consider wealth and success. For me, and we talked about it, I was extremely wealthy before I ever made a penny, because I know what true wealth is, right? The other stuff just gives me resources. But wealth is something beyond what's in your bank account. But I do believe there's a way of having both. I believe that you can be eternally wealthy and secularly wealthy at the same time, but you need a North Star.
Well, I love it, and just to kind of put a bow on this, and we'll make sure we get the links on here for everyone. And, time is of the essence, so we don't delay, get there. But I will say this is we talk about, I was always raised to be a fruit checker. You know, there's a lot of people talking, but my dad, now my pastors always say, check the fruit, get around them, vet them, look at their fruit. And I would be like, Dad, what do you mean check their fruit? And he'd always say character and integrity. I'm like, how do I know? They're going to tell me what I ever want to hear. And he goes, just watch how they are with their kids and watch how their kids respond to their dad. He goes, my number one. And he goes, watch to see if the wife is shut down or if she's got a smile on her face. I was like, oh, okay. Now that I have kids and now that, I'm married, I was like, is my wife smiling? Are my kids cool? Are they, or are they, what do they say about me? And it was amazing. The reason why this whole relationship started, I heard your name. I heard your sound bites. I saw your kind of stuff where you're doing. I'm like, oh, he's creative. Oh, he's this. But what got me was I saw this post by one of your boys, and then I followed your boy on Instagram to find out. Because, I go to hire people all the time. You know what I check now?
Their kids.
I check. No, I don't.
Their social.
They're social.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm looking at kids, like, they're telling me this, and I see them doing a keg stand. I'm like, okay, you won't be here on Monday. You'll be hungover. Not hiring you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, they don't even know. Back in the day, I was looking at MySpace pages. I was like, oh, dear Lord, But I was scrolling through looking at your boys. But then the way they talked about their dad, I could tell it wasn't scripted. I could tell it was from the heart. I could tell that there was admiration. There was like inspiration. They were pumped that you were doing something you were passionate about. I was like, okay. You look at so many politicians, their families are train wrecks because they're so inauthentic. Yeah. I was like, all right, now I got to find this guy. And then we chatted, and I was like, oh my gosh, we gotta do something. Yeah. So how you do anything is how you do everything. You know, and I know that I've watched it. You don't build companies and then throw a lame event.
Yeah, that's the thing. The important thing too is, when I ran, I didn't have to run. In fact, it cost me greatly, my family greatly, my business greatly. We could have encapsulated ourselves and not really deal with the problems of California, but that's not who we are, right? And so we know, I want to build a legacy with my children where they know, like, we don't avoid fights. We run toward the fire, right? That's what we're called to do, and that's what we're going to do. So I don't enter anything haphazardly. Everything I decide to do, I do at the best of my ability. This event, I don't need to do this event. Like, we get paid good money to go and consult with companies. This event will never yield the financial reward equal to the effort put into it. Yeah. It's not about that. Yeah. It's really about how am I going to equip other people so that I'm not out there battling this fight alone. Yeah. How do I get 1,000+ people in multiple cities across the nation to understand this concept so they can be successful in their marriages, in their parenting, in how they view themselves, their place in the world, and obviously in business. Because if I can equip people to be successful in all those areas, we can actually start to make cultural shifts in America and actually transform, the environment that we're in. So for me, it's about, I have this arsenal of weapons, and I'm going to go to this event. I'm just going to be handing out weapons. Like, here, go into battle. Yeah. Here, you need a pitchfork. You need a sword. I just want to equip people to do it. So this event, there's no, it's more work than anything. And again, the financial element will never equal the time investment. But for me, it's way beyond that. I want to produce something that has never been done, that is just so radically well done that people will leave there. I'm convinced people are going to leave there not only transformed, we're going to shake them. They're going to be shook. From the moment this event starts, the way we're going to start this event, you'll be shook within the first 10 seconds of this event. We're going to shake you. Come on. And we're going to keep you stirred the whole time. You're going to walk out of there with a greater sense of purpose, and more importantly, a greater sense of how to navigate toward that perfect purpose and achieve it. But, you asked me the other day, like, who this event is for, right? And I had 2 categories in mind that were clear, and you gave me the third. If you remember when you called me, I was on my way I was about to jump on the plane. First category of people this event for is, right? If you're successful, if you've reached an incredible level of
Oh, I do
success,
remember.
right? Yeah. If you reach an incredible level of success, like you're gelling, like you're making money, you have multiple businesses, you're successful, but you just feel like you don't have purpose, you don't have meaning. Like, what is it all for? What do I do with it? How do I share it? This event is for you because we're going to teach you, successful people, how to take that and how to share it, how to equip others, and how to find purpose and meaning in your life, in your family life, home life, how you see yourself, and in business. But maybe you have purpose and maybe you are fulfilled and you have a great family life and you have a great relationship with God and but you're struggling financially. You just don't know how to actually get there and how to actually start or how to complete. We're going to teach you how to do that too, because we've started thousands of businesses and we're going to teach you how to do that. But the third category was for people like Dr. Matt over here, who said, well, I know what success looks like and I have purpose and meaning. Like, what about people like me? And I missed the whole other element of it. There are going to be over 1,000 people that are like-minded individuals that have crushed it in business or gonna crush it in business or have accomplished something or have a network, and the value of being around those type of people that bought a ticket, that are saying, I want to be here and be in a room, and I want to go farther. I want to go deeper. I want to learn more. I want to crush it. I have crushed it, but there's more. I want to be around those people. Who wouldn't want to be around 1,000 of those people and say, you know what? Let me level up, not only in my life, my business, but even in my social network.
Yeah.
Let me level up the quality of people that I surround myself with. So I think that even if you have success and purpose and meaning, this event is for you because you're going to be around a lot of like-minded people. And iron sharpens iron. You rub two sticks together, you create a fire. So I'm super excited about being in the room myself with a bunch of people that are just hungry. So it's for everybody.
I'm going to have a date night tonight with my wife and tell her we got to change the plans. I will say this. There's one seminar I get nothing out of in Vegas, but I only go there for the social network part, because honestly, every high achiever goes there in my profession, so I go there. Those conversations, those dinners, I come back and, I'll double my practice. It's
worth
priceless. I can't miss that, even though I don't even go for CE credits anymore. It's just like, gosh, when are we gonna? But I know who's in the room, and who's in the room makes a difference. And so, listen, just landing the plane. What's the website?
DiscoveringPolaris.com.
We'll have it on there. You guys, this is Anthony Trimino. Thank you for taking the time just to tell us all about it. And we're pumped to see where this goes. I know it's just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Yeah.
Come on.
I am a factor. Got a dream of a legacy. Eye of the tiger.